morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever it is for you. I'm Miss Christine of Reading Escapades and Math Explorers, and I'm here to talk about my best friend when it especially comes to trigonometry and calculus, and that's the unit circle. Remember that this unit circle will give us almost all the information that we actually need. It's kind of like the multiplication table. And once you memorize it or you find the patterns, which is even more important, your life in high-level mathematics will be so much easier. But a lot of people don't see the patterns. And so today I wanted to do a quick video to show, or maybe not so quick, to show you what the patterns are. So the unit circle will have almost all of the information we need for trigonometry, pre-calc, and calculus to figure things out. Just like we know 2 times 2 is 4 and 2 times 3 is 6. So let's start with the pattern. Here is our x-axis. Well, you can't really see that blue too well. Let's switch it over to red and make the line a little bit bigger. Okay, this is our x-axis, and it cuts the unit circle in half. We also have the y-axis. Okay, and then we have our origin, which these are things that you should all be familiar with. Whoops, there we go. Back, I don't know what happened there. Let's just also review our quadrants because, well, I'm going to tell you something that I find hilarious. You probably won't, but I do. Remember, this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. And you can remember that because that makes the initial, if you follow it around, of your favorite teacher. Christine, that's me. See how fun I am. But anyway, let's get rid of those. But we do want to remember the quadrants as we will need to think about that later on. So let's talk about things. What are these numbers right here? Or these, and they're just a whole bunch of stuff. And it really confuses a lot of people. But just like some people call me Mommy, Miss Christine, Mrs. Allen, Christine, Chrissy, hey you. I have different names depending on what context I'm doing. And that's all these are. This thing with the pi on top is called our radians. This is our degrees, and this is our XY values. It's just different names for the same thing. Whoops, I didn't want to get rid of that. So let's start with radians. These numbers right here, because you should be familiar with degrees and your XY value from previous classes, but radians are something that's a little bit different. Okay, and I'm going to just add a couple here. So every 15 degrees in a circle is another slice of pie. I love the pie. Okay, so remember, for every 15 degrees, you get another slice of pie. And I'll just make them all here. Now, we don't care about 15 degrees because the pie slice is so darn small. I certainly wouldn't want a pie slice that small. But, right? And we hardly ever use that. But this is really the full name, like my full name would be Christine Sweet Allen. So my full formal name, whoops, I don't know where that got there. And this is going to be pi over 12. This is 2 pi over 12 because we're 2 lines up. This is 3 pi over 12. This is 4 pi over 12. This is 5 pi over 12. This one is 6 pi over 12. I hope by now you get the picture. I'm not going to put them all in because you don't want to sit here. But I'm going to put in the big ones. This is 12 pi over 12. And this is 24 pi over 12. It's also known as 0 pi over 12 as well. That will come back to that. So let's simplify these. This reduces, we can divide both by 2, to pi over 6. And that's what it's really known as most people know me as Miss Christine and not my full name. We reduce this one, it will reduce to pi over 4. This reduces to pi over 3. This is 5 pi over 12, but just like pi over 12, the 5 pi over 12, the 7 pi over 12, the 11 is rare, so rarely used, we don't even care about it. Like, you don't even want to waste brain space knowing that. But know that there's one there, because everything in math is symmetrical and always follows a pattern. So the space between each of these lines is 15 degrees. This is pi over 2. Here we have just pi. And here we come back, it's either 0 or 2 pi. It's also known as 2 pi. Okay, so we have those. Now, radians, again, just a different name for degrees or for the XY value, depending on what you're actually using it for. Now, the tricky thing you have to do here is when you're using a TI calculator, make sure, if the answer is weird, make sure that you're either in radians or degrees, because you'll be flipping through them, especially even throughout a homework assignment. So you want to make sure that you have your calculator, and you can find that by going into the math section. Now, let me show you another pattern. We have the 30, we have the 45, we have the 60, and then we have your axes. Again, 30, this is how far let me switch colors. Let's go with the green this time. How far are we away from the x-axis? 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 60 degrees. Okay, how far are we away? 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 60 degrees, and so on and so forth. Now, something that's really cool, once you know these, is excellent. Okay, at the 45 degree mark, it's the square root of, also known as the square root of 2 over 2, or the square root of 2 over 2. It's exactly the same. It's an easy peasy one. And as we hit each quadrant, we're just making negative, the ones that make negative. The x values are negative on this side. So here and here, the x value is negative. X values are positive on this side. Y values are positive here. Y values are negative here. Okay, so now let's do this 30 degrees. The 30, the way I remember, when we're 30 degrees away from the x-axis, we're going to have a square root of 3 over 2. Everything you can see is over 2 when we have fractions, so everything's over 2. When we're 30 degrees away from the x-axis, it's going to be a square root of 3. Over here, 30 degrees away from the x-axis, negative square root of 3. 30 degrees away from the x-axis, negative the square root of 3 over 3. And the same thing over here. When we're okay, so now it's the same thing but going the opposite way. Let's use a dark green. When we're 30 degrees away from the y-axis, the y is going to have that square root of 3 over 3. 30 degrees away from the y-axis, it'll be the square root of 3 over 3, and that's all the way through. Now, the other number is 1/2, and the 1/2 is at the 60 degrees away. So this one is 60 degrees away from the 1/2, and that gets you, and 60 degrees away from the y-axis, that gets you 1/2. I just remember 30 degrees is the square root of 3 over 2. And then the other one has to be 1/2. Always and forever, no exception. Those two numbers are married together, the 1/2 and the square root of 3 over 2. I'm married on the unit circle. So if you can remember one, you can remember them all. And that's the easiest way to do that. Most professors will allow you to use a unit circle at all times. But geez, why would you? This is so easy Just memorize that, and then you're not constantly looking at your paper, and you'll spend a lot less time doing the math, instead of constantly going back over something that you'll need to know. I hope this helps. I know it's a lot of confusing. Please let me know if it doesn't. If it doesn't, and you know why it's all confusing, let me know. I can make another video. If it's confusing and you don't know why, let me know that too, and I'll explain it a different way. Thanks a lot and have a fantastic day.